Hi, my name's Kieran. I'm working on a video game. Think something like Pokemon, Persona, but instead of fighting with monsters, you fight with a card game. And this video is something I initially recorded as part of my last video, but I decided to make it its own thing because it is, as you can see by the runtime, quite lengthy. I've been working on this game for about 2 years now, so this is going to be almost everything I've done design-wise with this, from the ground up to where I am now, and a bit of why it's taken so long, and what I've done and learned along the way. So if you haven't seen the last video, make sure to check that one out about my design goals for my game. I lay out why I'm doing this a certain way, and why I can't just make a certain type of game. Like, I'm after a very specific feeling, which has very specific goals. Those being fast, easy, and fun. So I'm going to go through all of my previous designs and break down them and go through my design goal criteria to see how they stack up and why I had to move on and why I had to leave some prototypes in the dust. I have finished a handful of, I'd say, mostly done card systems along the way, but they just didn't do what I needed, so I had to move on from them. If you're into design at all or just want to see your insight to the creative process, stick around and maybe you can learn a thing or two. I do ramble quite a bit, but I learned a lot by doing this. So if you're out there working on a burgeoning project and you want to see how it's done, stick around. I think you'll learn something. See you at the end of an hour and 45 minutes. So when I was playing these old versions, I could tell that something was off. I might not have known exactly what it was, but they weren't matching up with my vision. I didn't have the exact words I was looking for to kind of figure out what I needed to change or like why they weren't jiving with me necessarily, but I just knew. I knew that when I was picturing the experience I wanted people to have, that those games, these designs, these card game systems, they weren't doing it. I wasn't going to get there if I used them. All these designs that I'm going to go over might be fine card games on their own. They might be perfectly fine. They might be a fine card game. But to me, just a decent card game isn't what I'm after. Let me reiterate that. A decent card game isn't what I'm after. I'm making something that can scale to small trainer battles, to big boss fight, to, killing God at the end or something crazy, that is appealing to people who liked Yu-Gi-Oh! But thought it might be a little too complicated, to people who do like these card games but maybe yearn for days where things were more simple, that doesn't take a front load of rule parsing to actually get into, and doesn't eat up too much time. And at the very front of it all is fun to play for casuals and veteran card game veterans alike. So I started looking for some card game, design insight. I could find a few games and kind of, take inspiration where I needed to, or improve a few things, make a few modifications to stuff that was already there to see if I can make them fit my 3 criteria more. I was specifically looking for more like actual design insight, like how do people figure out the numbers? How do they at Magic know how much power or toughness to give a dude that costs 4 mana? What about a dude that costs 2 and 2 black? What about one that costs 1 and 3 black? How do you know how powerful it is? Certainly there has to be like some equation or something. So I started looking at Magic's designer, Mark Rosewater. He has an amazing GDC talk about the lessons he's learned as the head designer for Magic the Gathering. He has a whole column of stuff on the Magic website, and if you look at anything under the tag, he tags his articles, Making Magic, and that he gives all the design insight, not everything, he's not giving you the whole book, but he gives you a bunch of at least the methodology and the ideas behind why they did certain things. So Mark Rosewater has a very attractive article title right here, 10 Things Every Game Needs. Oh, I better make sure my game has all 10 of those things. Dadgummit. Well, here, let's take a look. I want to bring it to the bottom of this article to go over the things that I gleaned, probably the most important from this. I'll link to this in the description, but you can follow along right here. Number 8, a game needs fun. There needs to be something that allows the players to enjoy themselves. The number one reason people play games is for entertainment. If your game isn't fun to play, people won't play it. Of all the 10 criteria, fun is by far the most subjective. It's very easy for one person to enjoy what another would hate, but game design is about creating fun experiences, so this is something every game designer has to care about. There is much you can learn by looking at your game, but fun is not one of them. Fun comes from the play itself, which means part of your designing a game is playing. So not only do we have to come up with a system, but we're going to have to make a system, have enough cards to play the system, and then play it to see if it's fun. That takes a lot of time. And down here at the very end is something that has been burned into my mind ever since I read this article. Number 10, the last thing he says a game needs, but I think is just as important as fun, is a hook. If you want people to play your game, there has to be something about it that encourages people to want to try it. If you're selling your game, the hook is what you use to market it, okay? And this isn't just some skeezy marketing thing. I know marketing has a bad connotation for some people, but it's not just about that. A concrete fact about indie devs and indie studios is that they are great marketers. They know, they can see that in AAA or some other game venue, something isn't being made, or that they have something special that every other thing with millions of dollars behind it doesn't have. So that's their hook. That's how they leverage it. That's how they get people to play, because even if their game isn't the highest budget thing, it might have a great hook, or it has the passion behind a small person that you can see working on it. You can see that coming through. You can't measure this in a beaker, but you can tell. And let's be honest, there's a ton of card games out there. There's a ton of games that are using cards for a bunch of stuff because it's a great model. It has a bunch of surprise, lets you deck build for expressiveness. It fits a lot of criteria for a lot of different things. And frankly, it's an attractive game. Like, card games are really fun. However, most of them tend to kind of do the same thing. It's like, I'm Magic, but this now. I'm Magic, but this and this. I'm that, but a little bit more to the Magic side. Oh, I'm Magic, but this. I'm Magic, but that. I think you can see the trend here. I think that out of most current games, most current card games, the hook is the thing that a lot of people are missing. And frankly, I think the Japanese card designers have the best idea for what to do. But that's another topic. So I started thinking, what would my hook be? What would I want to do? Well, I started thinking about another huge influence I had, which was another RPG, and that was Undertale. Undertale also has a hook that is right front and center of every trailer, everything about it. The RPG where no one has to die, okay? And it's true, all the way throughout the game, no one has to die. You don't have to kill anybody in Undertale. So it takes a thing that a lot of people think about RPGs, twists them on its head. It also had a demo out there, has its own flavor, its own style, music, art, writing, everything about that had a distinct fingerprint on there that sets it apart. Millions of dollars couldn't have made Undertale any better. It might have added a few more things to it, but nothing was going to replace just that simple idea. You don't need all these bells and whistles to make a great game. And because of that, Undertale found a really big following outside of typical JRPG fans. You know, JRPG fans are the ones who love mashing A to grind. They're out there min-maxing all this shit. They love building up all these things, and they approach it really methodically. They try to get the maximum time investment out of stuff. Like that is part of the RPG thing, I guess, because of Dragon Quest, but it doesn't have to be. And when I think about it, Undertale was emotional, it was heartfelt. That's what I'm going for. And Undertale's combat system as well, if you want to talk about fast, Undyne fight takes all of 8 minutes. Any normal random encounter in Undertale takes all of 30 seconds. Like, there's still the same type of thing. Yeah, you're doing different stuff than just menu inputs, but it's still the same kind of thing, and you're not grinding in that one either. Battles are kind of very spread apart, so I'm taking a lot of inspiration from, like, maybe more of that. Maybe you don't have to be grinding shit all the time. Maybe, I don't know, we'll see. I started thinking about how most card games typically involve you just punching someone's face until you win, or milling the deck out if you hate fun. And it can be a fun competition where both people are here and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna punch you, we're gonna punch each other, and our monsters are gonna punch each other, and whoever wins, whatever, we're here to have fun. That can happen in card games. There's already kind of like a low stakes, we're having like a fun little competition kind of vibe. You know, you could do crazy stuff. You could do your Kaiji Yu-Gi-Oh level where somebody's dying after the card game if you want to give it some more gravitas. But, you know, I started thinking about, I started coming at it a little differently. Like, would you be able to, let's say, maybe this is a card game where you could win like a pacifist? This idea was around for a long time. This was my earliest design, and it all revolved around this idea of winning how you wanted to. You could win the game however you wanted to. So if you wanted to, you know, play traditional RPG punchy style, you could win that way. If you wanted to win economically, if you like, there's a resource system. If you can just get enough of the resource, you could win just by buying it. You could buy your way to victory. Like, it's kind of like getting some Civ vibes in here of like different victory paths. If you wanted to, if you like playing the control style and you like just countering people, if you like counterplay, you could win by doing counterplay. So let's take a look at design number 1. And I'll call this one the pipe dream. So for this one, I did have an old video, but I took it down. I don't, this isn't my system anymore, so I just took it down. But I recorded a whole video of how to play this one that involved you having an avatar, and you had a dream card, and you had a skill card, and your dream card told you how you were going to win the game. And you got levels. There are these level cards that you would get, and you get 7 of them, and then you would win. And then as you leveled up, as you did whatever your level thing told you to do, so like for air, for example, they got a level every time they attacked directly. So I attacked directly, and then I'd get a level from it. And then after doing that, your opponent would get to draw. So every time I got a level, the opponent would get to draw a card, and then if that card had this little symbol on it, had this little S thingy over here, that meant they could play it for free. This was a great, fun, engaging, like, pop-off moment of, okay, I need to get my level cards because I want to play bigger cards to, you know, play the game, so I need to get levels, but by getting them, you're getting cards and a chance to have a big comeback. So it incentivized you to play the game in general, and then your opponent got rewarded for certain things. And things that had like there was a resource system, there was stuff you could spend things on, all this kind of stuff. There were like little trap card spots back here. There were 3 spots to have dudes on the left, the center, and the right, just like buddy fight. But you had your avatar was defined by this little dream thing. And then you had a skill card that was like once per turn or once per game, you could do certain things. And each card could attack, or each card could kind of get you one of these resource tokens. And you could, like this guy, for example, the water dudes, gained a level every time they activated a counter card. So they were the control-y type. Every time they had a bunch of cards that were counters, and if they activate a counter, they got a level. And then there were other ways that you could get levels, not just by doing that on their own. You know, it was like once per turn you can get one doing this. And then there were also just kind of default ones of you could spend 3 of the resource to gain a level. So, you know, during your turn, you could do your thingy, you could buy it, or you could get it, I think, automatically by punching it in the face. I think the way the air stuff worked is they got 2 instead of just the normal 1. But this was the first design, and this got a lot of playtesting. There's a lot of stuff done. I made some physical proxies for this before moving into Tabletop Simulator. Got a lot of longevity out of this one. But as you'll notice, even though I'm teaching people how to play this game in this one, look how long this goes on for. This was a 23-minute video. No, not a single boss fight. So imagine instead of me teaching people that this was, you know, just fun little character banter. Maybe during the attacks, maybe they would be talking and the amount of time these things would go on. That's 20 minutes. I don't want any boss fight to be taking 20 minutes. Even the Sans fight only takes 15. And so, no, right away, wasn't fast. But I spent a lot of time on this one, though, because I think people were trying it. They thought it was really interesting because the hook did so much heavy lifting. The idea that you could kind of play this game and gain levels however you wanted to, it had a lot of variety, and it was really fluid. You know, if you wanted, like, I want the aggro dream, but like the water skill where I can draw an extra card or something. Or you want the aggro skill where you can give a dude an extra 4,000 attack and stuff. Like, there were a lot of elements that worked really well about this because it was so customizable. I leaned so hard into the customization of this one. My idea as well was that this little avatar card here is defined by these 2 cards that you collect throughout the game. So it's like you have your dream and your skill, and that defines basically what this card does. And so I was thinking that maybe you could have a kind of like a picture on this. You could have a picture of yourself, picture of your waifu. Maybe you wanted to kind of role play as a certain character and you go like, ooh, this character would have this, and that plays like them. And people got really into this. Somebody coded a button for Tabletop Simulator that let you upload a picture so they could have a token. Like, this system got a lot of longevity. People got a lot out of this one. And it was fun, it was really interesting, it was cool, people really liked it, but it took a lot to learn. I don't think it was very easy, and it wasn't very fast, so while this might be a cool card game on its own, maybe we could do something similar for it later. I don't think it's gonna fit here. So let's go on to what I'm gonna call design number 2. So this one had me thinking, okay, I love the weight that hook had, the idea that you could win however you wanted to. Let's keep some of that energy here for a second, think about like why why am I doing this? What do I love about this idea? I love the idea of like the nostalgia that I had for playing card games as a kid, playing new games with my friends, and like we jumped around everything. We played Yu-Gi-Oh, we played Naruto, we played Bleach, we played Duel Masters, we played Magic, like everything. We tried everything as it came out, and it was fun. Like we didn't ever go whole hog full tournament deck on a few of them, except for like I think Yu-Gi-Oh is the hardest I might have went in on. But that was until like way later. Just as this stuff was coming out, we were just excited. New card game, yeah, let's try it. Cool, this one's Naruto. Let's try the Naruto one. Then we got the Dragon Ball GT stuff started coming out. Oh, let's do the GT stuff. Yeah, let's try it. Like it was just so fun to see these things. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, nowadays card games are kind of down to, you got your big four, I think really. You got your big four of your card games. There's Magic, there's Pokemon, there's Yu-Gi-Oh, and the newest edition, Hearthstone. So I started thinking, you know, okay, we have all these different kinds of card games and stuff. What if we try something like this? I'll call this design number 2. It was the grand unified card game theory. My idea was I was gonna get every type of card game that you can imagine, and I'm gonna work it into this system, okay? So I had a whole theming idea for like, how can I work all these in? And I had Buddy Fight was my big, I was like, Buddy Fight is kind of, I think the big format one. Off the last design, I had a lot of Buddy Fight stuff. So this one was fresh in my mind. Yu-Gi-Oh was gonna be there, Magic, Pokemon, Vanguard, something like Dragon Ball, something like Duel Masters. And these were all gonna have their own different rule sets. So this was, I think, was the really cool part about it. So this idea came from, okay, so let's just say, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh here. I called it Ancient Core, taking a little the genre term from music stuff. My core is Ancient Core. I love Yu-Gi-Oh, so I want to play the game like it's Yu-Gi-Oh. So this one had different variables for everything. And I said, okay, well you got like, your life is going to be like 4 to 8. Your starting hand is like the Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, 4. Your hand limit's 7. You draw 1 card per turn. You can play 1 monster. You can play as many spells or traps as you want. You can attack per card. You can set, you know, 1 monster. You can have 3 spells and traps, or you have your little field card. And you have a max of 2 special summons and also fusions and rituals and stuff from your extra deck. So this idea kind of came from, well, I know people love the Yu-Gi-Oh idea of not having to have too many resources. They love what's already there about Yu-Gi-Oh. They love not tapping things, and that's going to appeal to them. So you know what? If they want to play this card game like this, they can. Sure, you can play it like it's Yu-Gi-Oh. I started messing around. Okay, what would Magic look like? How could I adopt Magic into this? And I'm taking all of them, I'm doing the Hearthstone thing. I want to take everything and simplify it. I want to make everything simple so I get people in the door. So Magic, let's do the same kind of thing with Yu-Gi-Oh. All right, you got 3 spots. You got 3 spots for monsters, sure. You got 3 zones for spells and stuff. Maybe we'll have like your enchants or your auras and stuff go there. You have your discard, you got your deck, and then where Yu-Gi-Oh had the little left side was a field spot and your extra deck, Magic would keep lands over here. So but you know, just to make up for it, your Yu-Gi-Oh stuff might have 4 to 8 life. Your Magic dudes are gonna have 20 life. They're gonna be really hard to kill, but they're a lot slower. They need to ramp up. You have a starting hand of 7. You can keep only 7. You draw 1 card. You can put 1 card in your little resource zone. I'm doing the Duel Masters thing where there's no lands. You just took any card and put it over there. And then you can play anything you can afford. And every card can attack, you know, unless they have Summoning Sickness. They can attack after the turn you play them. So cards have Summoning Sickness. You have Dank Life, Big Hand, ramping resources. You don't have to sacrifice stuff. You can start building a really nasty board. And you could play counters from your hand. You didn't have to set traps or anything. You could do in Yu-Gi-Oh, they called them hand traps. You could play counters from your hand. So that was the benefits of playing a Magic type style. And then I started thinking about, okay, what else could we do? Let's do Pokemon. And I tried to come up with cute little names for all of them too. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh was Ancient, Magic was Hex, and then Pokemon was Critter. You have Critter Core. And instead of having a life, they had prize cards. And they would win the game by getting prize cards. So you have no hand limit. You start with 7 cards. You have 3 monsters that you keep in the back here. You have 1 like active like spell type card that you could use as an item. You could keep it active at all times, basically. The same thing as these ones would do. Like your permanent kind of like your field card is basically here still. and then any permanent spell would be in your item spot. So then you have one monster who's your main one, and then you can attach a card to them to give them energy for stuff. I'm like, maybe we would work that in, maybe I'd ignored it. You can see where it gets a little complicated now. But the idea was that, each card had different stats and stuff, and where it might function like defense in Yu-Gi-Oh! Or toughness in Magic, this one would be like a health thing, and then it would stack health for stuff. So like you'd have a level 1 card, then you could put a level 2 on top of it, and then you'd add up their health totals. And then you put a level 3 on top of that one and add up their health totals. So to knock out this dude, kill, like, they only get one monster that can attack per turn, but it is getting increasingly stronger. It's getting increasingly more nasty. I wasn't married to attack should stack or anything yet. I wasn't sure about it. But that was the idea, was that you have a level 1, then 2, then a 3, and then it's getting bigger, like you're evolving in Pokemon. And then every time you knocked out somebody's monster or attacked directly, you got a prize card. Just like Pokemon. Isn't that fun? Here's the Vanguard one, where you had your 6 damage, just like you took damage. You had, we still had the S card thingies. That was your trigger stuff. And then they would do things and stuff like that. Like, that was the idea, was that your core card would just tell you these rules. It was a card that would tell you all these rules on it. And it was made to function like all these different card games. And honestly, just looking at that again, like, makes you really excited about it. Like, I get really excited revisiting that idea. Like, I think it's so fun. It does what I want it to do, but I didn't get too far with it because the balancing stage would be an absolute nightmare. And would you be able to use any card? Can any card work in any deck? Is there deck restrictions? Magic has colors. Are colors here? What do we do? Blah, blah, blah. Like, there's a lot of different variables that I'd have to mess with, and I'm not too sure how they would all pan out. And, I was worried that trying to appeal to all these different people would just be like, oh, this is Magic but worse. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! But worse. This is Pokemon but worse. So by trying to get a wide net, I end up making nobody happy. But I do still feel like the idea of playing how you want to and still winning how you want to has a lot of legs to it. Like, I think that idea is really cool. But unfortunately, though, how you would make every trainer battle take twice as long is if everybody has a different setup and everybody has different rules. And then every time you fight somebody, you got to learn their rules really quick, or you got to like figure out how they do it. Do you have to play a different league, get somebody with different rules? Do these things interact differently? Every time I change my core, do these rules change it? Do I have to relearn how to play the game? Every time I play with a trainer, like, certain ones are going to take way longer. Do I have to see them go through their setup thing? How do I know exactly like what they're doing when you're introduced to a new core? Like, I'd have to onboard all this information, all this stuff, basically teaching people new games every time just to kind of get this. I think it's a good idea, though, to like kind of boil everything down so just the essentials are left and let them all play with each other, because they all are using like pretty similar elements when you think about it. So, that was a really old idea. I had this down like a while ago, and then Gate Ruler comes out and is doing basically this, and I'm just like, man. But whatever, So I might still mess with that, and I'm sure people will be like, oh, this is like Gate Ruler. We'll see, but I had this idea before that game was even announced. So that was a thing. I might still mess with that because it's a fun idea. I think it's a really promising, fun idea, but it has a lot of challenges, but I still get pretty excited. And every time I look back at that, I'm like, when I think about the emotions I want this game to give, that does it. That's exactly what I'm looking for, because with this story about reconnecting with friends, I think it emphasizes the differences between people, and it's like, but we can still get along. We can still do things. It's a whole thing, but it's a little too complex, I think. So after trying that out, or, I didn't really get too far with that one. I was like, this is mostly just an idea that I theory crafted for a long time. I had a few card lists done, but I never actually took it into Tabletop Simulator to test out. This one I actually did. This one got into Tabletop Simulator, and this is kind of like a variant of the first version. So let's call this version 1.5. This is the big one. This is the big one. This is the one that got the most mileage out of people. This is the one that people really tried and they loved. And just like in the old version, people had a dream and a skill, and these kind of defined your stats, and every card that you played, you could attack with them. They had a little attack, and they had a defense value, and they had a little resource stat, so everybody could attack, or they could get you resources and stuff. You had a simple resource called meter that you could have up to 6 of. You could have it a little tracker, just track it with a die. And at the start of your turn, you could spend 3 of this thing to get you a victory. Do I still have it? Yes, there they are. You could spend 3 at the start of your turn to get a victory, or you could attack the opponent's leader to get a victory. And every time you got a victory, your opponent got to draw a card. And if that card had the S on it, oh, it doesn't really know. I'm thinking that card had the S on it. Hey, look at that. It's got the S thingy on it. They could play it for free. That was like the comeback mechanic. That was the big surprise. And these still went a long way to do stuff. And I had a bunch of balance tweaks. It was the idea that maybe getting a victory off the dream is too good. Maybe they just get you energy or meter or whatever. And then once per game, you can use like a really strong skill and stuff. And they kind of helped drive the way decks played and things. You had 2 little trap zones down here, just like in Yu-Gi-Oh! You can activate them whenever, as long as you set them and things like that. And it had a lot of things going for it. The cards having an attack stat, a defense stat, and a resource stat. At first, I thought might be a little complicated, but I think the more I reflect on it, is probably fine. Like once you get used to it, it's okay. It has more granularity for cards. Cards had a level, and then we also had a turn timer. So on turn 1, you can have up to 1 level 1 dude on the field. I'm seeing here we go. So on turn 1, you could have 1 level 1 dude on the field, and then we also had zeros back then. You could have any number of zeros, and then on round 2, so then this player would go and he get to play whatever he could play, and then my turn. Now we're level 2. Now I could play 1 level 2 and my zeros, or 2 level 1s, and this was like kind of a fun incremental version of Buddy Fight Size system. This worked. This was fun. There were a lot of different ways that you could do things with it. And, every time you could attack with the dude, or you could get resources for him. But it had a lot of glaring problems. Like, if you had a dude who had 10,000 attack, but he got you 1 resource, why would you do anything other than attack with him? Like, these things called dominant strategy is a thing in strategy games. A lot of people didn't see it because they think, like, more casual minded, that a lot of people playing it didn't really notice. But it lends itself to a lot of min-maxing, where it's like, you want people who have basically all resource gathering stat, where, use them, get me a ton of energy, and then I can spend it and win, or I'm just going to attack you with my big number. Why would I ever want to use this guy to get energy? It just made no sense to have a card that could have 8,000 attack and no energy, or a card that could have 7,000 attack but get you 1 energy. Why would you ever do that? Because you had to attack or get energy with it. It was either or. You couldn't do both. So that lent itself to a lot of problems. And then also the idea that you could buy it and you couldn't stop your opponent from having energy. So every time they got a victory thing, yes, you get to draw your card, but say they had all the victory they needed. They have 6 over here, and then they're sitting on 4 energy, right? So then it's your turn, and you only have, let's say, you only have 3 victory over here, and it's your turn. I have 6. You know that at the start of the turn, I can spend all 3 of this to just win the game. I just need 1 more and I win. So if you're over here with only 3 victory and you can't really do anything, what do? You quit. That's the last thing I want people to do. The last thing I want anybody to do is quit your game. And I know this is part of, this is a card game thing that people kind of just do. A lot of card games set this up where they go, if you know you're going to lose, you scoop. It's just like, oh, I can't do anything. Scoop. I'm done. That's the worst feeling ever. I never want people to scoop in this. I want somebody to have a chance all the time, which means that there needs to be some level of comeback mechanic or just some way to at least stop a person. Like, the idea that you had to wait a turn or, like, kind of do a useless turn where you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything over here. Yes, you could still attack him and, like, maybe kill one of his dudes and hopefully get in to win, but what are you realistically going to do? You can't do anything. Led to a situation they call the lame duck. And the lame duck is where just a person is clearly behind and they can't do anything. So why are they going to play the game? Why are they going to play the game? In Mark Rosewater's column, 10 things a game needs, number 4 is, I think, also very important, a catch-up feature. There needs to be a way for players that have fallen behind to catch up. A game becomes frustrating if a player feels like he or she has no chance to win. So, Another way to think of this requirement is the idea of investment. In order for a game to function at its best, all its players have to care. If they don't, then the core of the playgroup's attention will shift from the game. How do you keep focus on the game? You have to keep people invested. The biggest reason players disconnect from a game is because they no longer have any investment. The number one cause of this is a belief that you can't win. The point of the game is to complete the goal of the game. Once you are no longer able to do that, or more importantly, once you no longer believe you can do that, the game stops having any pull over the player. So that tells me that this design had a lot of problems that unfortunately we're not able to fix. And another thing too is that if you could win by attacking or by buying it with this resource stuff, people just ended up, using dudes to get a bunch of energy and then buy it. I can't stop you. And then attacking, the typical kind of Yu-Gi-Oh counter-attacky cards exist. But let me talk about this in a bit more detail. So let me break down really quick just our design goals. And I want to do this for this one specifically because I know people are watching who playtested this design before and they thought it was really cool. I thought it was cool as well, but I want to go over why I can't use it. So, number one, is it easy? No, it is not easy. The game was on the lighter side, but it had a lot of components going on. You just saw, I'm sure some people glazed over the second I started going over all those components. There's victory. There's a timer. There's a level up goes over time, you know what I mean? There's meter. Cards have levels, which go up. There's also card costs, and there's dreams, and there's skills, and there's card effects, and there's sets, there's trap timing, there's all these things. Am I going to break with the card? Am I going to make with the card? There's lots of decisions that never lended themselves to playing the game casually or playing it by the hip with a sense of fun. It led to a lot of analysis paralysis, which is, nope, can't do it. Is the game fast? No, again. Just by having a wide complexity, just a lot of things, a lot of things are going on, wide complexity, it inherently meant that a turn took a little longer, which is fine. There are games that are fun because of that. There are people who get their fun from these kinds of systems. Card games have historically taken over 15 minutes to play a round. That's okay, but that's not what I'm looking for. If you're fighting, Joey Rattata, I need to be able to kill him in a minute. And that's not going to work with this system. And how would I scale it down? If I go okay, you only need 2 victory to beat Joey Rattata. How would I say that? Does Joey Rattata only need 2 victory to beat you? It gets really hard to scale these things. Health is a good one to scale because you can go, I have more health, you have less health. It'd be really weird to go, you need 2 victory to beat me. I need 5 victory to beat you. That's hard to bake in. That's very weird, and it doesn't lend itself to any kind of mnemonic device. What sense does that make? That, oh, you just have to try this hard and then I give up. That doesn't really make any sense. It doesn't work. It doesn't make the game faster, and it doesn't scale well. So, no, it's not fast. And number 3, was it fun? 80% of the time, yes. This is gonna be a little ranty, okay? Once you learned it all, which is, once you take in everything, all things considered, people had a lot of fun with it. They also know me, so they could be lying, but I think they're telling the truth because they were pinging people on my Discord going, hey, anybody want to play the card game? I got a new deck I want to try out, and I just had a little tabletop thing where people could make decks and try out leaders or dreams and skills and all different combinations of things. People really liked that. They thought it was really cool. People were into the idea that they could win by buying. They were in the idea that they didn't have to punch somebody to win. This did unfortunately lead to one of the most hated playstyles in all of gaming, which is the burn and the stall, which is fun for exactly one person. If your goal is just to buying it, if you want to flip it and pretend that instead of victory, you're dealing damage to the opponent, buying victory is the same thing as just doing burn damage constantly. And that's how the control decks kind of worked. I think because I flipped it and made it so that you're gaining something and the opponent gets to draw a card every time so they don't feel as bad. I don't think it ever felt as bad as burn damage, but it is functionally burn damage. So the stally burn playstyle is what control ended up being. Water was all that. They had just dudes with enormous defense, no attack, but they made resources like crazy. So that you just put a big wall dude in front of you, make a bunch of resources, and buy your way to victory. And then stop the opponent from doing anything. That's how they won. And that was, you know, kind of uninteractive. You could call it interaction, but preventing people from doing things isn't necessarily interactive. Like, I think interaction is more, you know, kind of a back and forth. If you're doing something for so long or I don't get to do anything, that's not interactive. I think it's kind of a meme thing that a lot of Magic players think counters and counter spells is interactivity in a game when it's not. I think interactivity in a game should be lighter. You should have something else more. Like blocking is interactive. Counterspell is not interactive. So, you know, and I already illustrated the one thing with, you know, I have 6 victory, you have 3, and I'm sitting on enough to buy my way to victory. What are you gonna do? You can't do anything. You're gonna scoop. You're gonna leave. That sucks. Aside from some incredibly specific counterplay, there's no way to stop that. And let me like kind of illustrate this into another way. So if we have one way to fight, in like say Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic or whatever, we've agreed there's one axis that we're fighting on, okay? We punch, and your monsters punch, and we agree that when we're knocked down, when our life points are gone, that's when the game is over. You know, right? Talked about that earlier. So that basically everything is in this one two-way road. I'm gonna try to send stuff your way, you're gonna send stuff my way, and we're gonna put little roadblocks in front of each other. What happens if I add another road? Okay. So let's say on this one road, I've dominated this road. You know that I'm just going to keep doing this. So instead, you go, oh, okay, so you're just going to keep punching me. I'm going to do this other thing and just win by buying it or doing something outside over here. So now what I can do is just stock up on resources. I'm going to put up a bunch of roadblocks for you. I'm not going to punch back. And I'm just going to, you know, go off to the side when I, at the beginning, was like, no, I thought we were, okay, or I thought we were doing this thing. The reason that's a problem, you know, in other games this might work. In other games like StarCraft, you can go, oh, he's doing this thing. Okay, time to change my plans and do this. In a fighting game, you're fighting a turtly opponent. What do? You grab, okay? The problem is this is a card game. That's the fundamental problem, which means that you're coming to this, you know, you're coming to this system with only so many options in play. I can only do whatever my deck says. And if I don't have cards in my deck that say, prevent the opponent from gaining meter, or, you know, steal energy from the opponent. If I don't have those in my deck, I can't stop you. I can't do anything. Now we're basically playing 2 different games. What are we doing? Now we're a race game. Now it's basically Candyland, which is the most uninteractive game possible and is almost completely decided by the draw of the deck. I could maybe attack your little resource guys. You could maybe attack my punchy dudes with your typical resource builder person. But because we only have a preset deck of cards that we built, you either have to have a bunch of counterplay stuff in there, which you might not even use. Maybe I'm not even gonna charge energy and you have like 3 cards in your hand that negate charging energy that are now sitting there doing nothing because I'm just focused on punching you. I'm on this road. Where you have roadblocks for this road, I'm all the way over here, so I don't care. That's a problem. I worked on so many variants for this one. I know that was probably the longest I talked about one, but I worked on so many variants for this one that it's just like, I had ones with 3 combat numbers, a big combat number, a resource number. I added a grid where it was like dudes up front and dudes behind. So you put like your makey dudes on the back and you had your fighty dudes up front, people defending things. Like I had this really cool emergent gameplay stuff that was happening. Like, I recorded a video for this stuff of just like, oh, check out this cool little interaction in my card game. And this was the grid layout, and let's see, this was last year. Okay. Here's the grid layout. This was kind of fun where people had, you know, you're still gaining your victory. There's your little turn timer. There's our resource tracker. There's all this stuff. And it's just like, this had some fun interactions. It was cool. The grid lent itself to some fun emergent gameplay. Like grids do that, but it's like, I spent a long time on that one. It just didn't work. I couldn't solve the interactivity problem, and I couldn't solve the lame duck problem. So as much as I wanted this hook to work, I just couldn't. I can't make it work. I'm not going to go into any more specifics about it, but I know there's some people who like really like that system, and we're like, why don't you just do that? I hope that makes sense now. I wish I could use it, but I can't. Maybe I could fix it later. Maybe I could fix something, but I can't now. So after canning that one, I said, okay, let's forget all this. Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's try something else, okay? So I was thinking, all right, instead of focusing on the hook so much of win however you want to, let's do basically another fighty card game, and let's see how it works. Let's use the inspirations and stuff that we've researched, and let's make something maybe more traditional card gamey, but add some tweaks, you know, do what Hearthstone did to Magic, what maybe I can do to like Buddy Fight or Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's try that. Let's call this design number 3, basically Buddy Fight. One thing I love in games is damage numbers, and there were no damage numbers in Victory, so I was kind of really excited. I was like, okay, I get my damage numbers. We don't have a hook, but now the hook is basically, but it's a video game. That's the hook. It doesn't matter what the card game is. The card game just has to be fast, fun, and easy, and then it'll be fine, right? Because we have a video game. Because I have a story. That was kind of like my little coping blanket. I would tell myself that it's fine. It's a video game. It's okay if your card game isn't the most unique thing in the world. So I went through and I updated all the cards to have an attack stat, like a health value, defense stat, and then a damage stat. So every card had an attack, a defense, and whenever you attack directly, they would deal a certain amount of damage that was in the thousands. So, you know, you have your attack and your defense stat are in tens, but, you know, you deal damage in the thousands. So we have our big fun damage numbers, and it's a whole bunch of little numbers going everywhere. And now we're caught up to where I was when I had that video 5 months ago saying that I was making a game. This is where that was. We were around here. So I was messing with this one a lot, and the more I mess with it, like it's fine. It works. Everything in this system works. It's like it has really cool damage number thingies. It has the leader that is kind of like the Dragon Ball Super stuff, where at a certain you attack and you deal damage to a health number, and then when that health number hits a certain thing right here, you have at 7,000, you get to use a burst, which so like even when you're about to be attacked, say you have like, say you're at 7,000, and then you're about to be attacked by like, you know, a 5,000 guy, you can burst to cancel the attack, like to break out of it. So if you played fighting games before, it's kind of like that. It's like a fighting game burst. Then they have these once per game, very powerful abilities that require like a special thingy, and they also have normal abilities where, you know, your leader was able to attack or use an ability and stuff for you, and all these kinds of things. It was kind of like buddy fight stuff, but the leader really added a lot of spice to it. Then I also added the, you know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Trap stuff, where you had let me get one of these fucking things, where you had like Yu-Gi-Oh! Trap cards that you could set down, and then at a certain time you could flip them up and then use them, just like trap cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because people like that kind of stuff. With a focus on just making like a faster, simpler game with a bunch of knobs that I could tweak, it worked. It worked decently enough. But I was trying to find like a new hook, so then I focused, I was able to step back, like I wasn't so worried about, you know, win however you want to or whatever, so I was able to kind of re-look at everything, like look at all the game elements and really see like, okay, bare basics, we got dudes, we got stuff, we have a leader, and you deal damage. What's the twist? What are we doing that's cool? And then usually in every other iteration of the game, I had like victory and stuff over here, so I was thinking about a new resource system. Around this time, I made this crazy thing. I spent way too much time on this stupid thingy. So I made this little thingy, and I spent way too long on it, where I was trying to figure out, okay, you know, here's our basic gameplay unit. How are we doing these things? And this is where I started, you know, really getting my stuff down of like, I need a meaningful creature-based card combat in under 2 minutes. That is like, bam, that is everything I need. And it has to be fast, accessible, easily understood at a glance, few resources, explosive, exciting. And I was like, okay, take a look at these. Let me get your little Twitter insights and see how people work and stuff. So I came up with like a few design ideas for this kind of stuff and figured out, okay, how are people feeling about it? Here's our gameplay elements and things. What about the, you know, you play one card a turn, we do like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Thing. We have the level limit that goes up every round. This was the last one. This is the buddy fighty one, kind of. This is exactly buddy fight, where you can only have like, you know, 3 and you got to do a limit. Then here's the stupid mana stuff, Hearthstone shit. I hate that. That shit's boring. Then action points, a bit more exciting, a bit more engaging. You can kind of like, you can theme it a fun way, like time or something. And I don't know, you could do some fun stuff with like action points, and you get so many every turn. You could do some fun stuff with that. You can do like the Netrunner thing. But, you know, so I made this thing. I spent way too much time on this thing but ultimately it did help me figure out that I wanted to figure out the resource system and then come up with something unique that could be my cool little fingerprint. And I did. I came up with this limit system that I am so happy with. If everything had to fail, so I had to get here to design the limit system, it was worth it. I'm dead serious. If all of this stuff, this whole year of coming up with things and stuff, just trying stuff to see what worked, if all of it ended in failure just to come up with this is awesome. This is one of my favorite resource systems, and no card game I've seen uses this. I'll have a whole video on it when I'm more confident in showing it off, or have something, you know, a bit more exciting to do with it. Once everything's kind of ironed out, I'll show off the system on its own. This is the winner here, and I'm so happy that I got this, and I was only able to do it by dialing back everything else. So keeping that scope kind of in mind, I think, actually really helped me in this situation. So if you're struggling with something similar and you're trying to find out like where you can innovate, don't do the with thing. That's what I was doing. I was trying to just add elements. The thing that a lot of amateur devs do is they just add things. This, but this, and this, and this. Also, and they just add so many things that at a, you know, I say wide because when a newcomer looks at it, they have to look at all these things. So when a newcomer sees your game, they have to look across how wide this canvas is. Versus if a newcomer sees something tiny but deep, what does a newcomer see? A newcomer only sees the top, but the masters see how far it goes. That's what you want to shoot for. I was making something that was just a whole bunch of stuff all thrown together. Victory, energy, levels, timer, hand, traps, blah, 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 everything. I just kept adding stuff of like, I like you, throw you on I'm at a fucking card game buffet and I'm throwing everything I want on here. And that was a bad idea. I think you can do something like fine with that, but that's not going to get you something elegant. That's not going to get you something simple but deep. Focus on, really, it did help to just go back to the basics. We're a punchy card game now. I'm basically a few of these other things. Like this one's basically Buddy Fight and Yu-Gi-Oh! But because I was able to step away, I found where I could innovate. And yes, there's still a lot here. I'm not going to pretend this is the simplest thing, but I was able to innovate because of that. So, you know, step back from your things. Take a break. So with that said, let's go down the criteria. Now, this is another serious contender. Let's go down the criteria and see what we got. So first off, easy. Is it easy? Kind of. You know, allies on your field did exactly one thing. Instead of having to attack or make energy resource stuff for you, like with the limit system, they can only do one thing. It's attack. That's it. So that's good. Now there's no decisions on that. Like you play the card and it does the thing. Now your decision is where is it going to go? You know, we can make that matter. I was even playing with systems where that didn't even matter. The decision now came from, were you going to, you know, burn a limit to play another card? Or were you going to just take your one card per turn and go? Were you going to use another one to evolve on top of it? What were you going to do? Like the decisions now came from how in do you want to go? How much do you want to commit? And that's a fun question to ask somebody because that's part of like the little gambler's thing of how much do you want to commit on this turn? Do you want to wait? Or do you want to dump it? You just want to dump it and run because you could, and it worked. This facilitated that. But it might be smarter to hold on to it and wait till you can, you know, throw it back in their face. So this was cool, but it also, like, the risky all-in things also led to the same problem of analysis paralysis. A lot of you know, should I, shouldn't I? And playing, I didn't play test this one with people, but I already could tell, just me playing against myself. I'm trying to shoot for one where I can play test against myself and have a pretty easy time. Just because that is how I'm emulating a new player, is if I can have a very easy time playing both sides, thumbs up. That is exactly what I want. Kind of easy. Kind of. Is it fast? Kind of. You know, it depended on the matchup and the health totals. Like, at least the benefit of this was that I could scale. Now Joey Rattata could have, like, 6,000, 8,000 health on it. He could have a poopy doo-doo leader, and then he didn't even have a burst. It could just be one side. If I wanted to, I could say, like, okay, front side has 3,000, back side has 3,000, sure. That'd be super easy. And then, all the gym leaders have the normal stuff. All the gym leaders have 15,000 on the front, and they flip at 7. We could do that. You still maintain the advantage. You could end it very quickly. So sure, I think yes, it is fast for what I'm looking for, because when I think back on it, the things that spent the longest were the control matchups, and honestly, that's not going to be any harder than, like, I'm already thinking that's like boss fight stuff. Boss fight stuff is 15,000 health total, also a control matchup kind of thing. And I was changing how control was working in the game too, so it wasn't so much like a shutdown, but just a one-up kind of thing. And yeah, I think it was kind of doing what I needed it to. And then fun is the most contentious one. Is it fun? I never got to playtesting this one with people for a few reasons. Because I could already kind of see the seams with this one. Like, it worked, right? Like, it worked. It's still, I think, the safest one. I showed this off to people, I streamed it, and they were like, yeah, no, I could see me playing this. They're like, yeah, this is cool, this is neat. They're like, people that are into card games, I think, were digging the idea of, like, how much you want to commit, how much you're gonna burn. Do you wanna, you can play your one card here, or are you gonna pitch in and, use your thingy and evolve a dude? Or are you gonna wait till you can get more and then go for a bigger play? Like, are you gonna do something with that? Like, it had a lot of really cool elements to it, but we did lose one thing. We lost the surprise of the S. We lost the surprise of the S card. And I love the idea that, when your back's to the wall, you got to use the S, bam, here's my comeback. It wasn't really there anymore. And I could maybe do a stupid janky one of every 2,000 health you lose, you draw a card. That sucks. That shit sucks. That Elder Scrolls game that tried to do that, where it was like, every 5 health you lose, you draw a card. And then if the card has prophecy or whatever the keyword was, you get to play it for free. That's janky, that's bad, and that's dumb. That is, use your atomic units of 1 card equals 1 card, or don't try to convert them, because then people have to do conversions in their head, and it's just like, that's bad. I don't like it. So it's like, you get one or the other, especially with something as simple as this. And the limit system worked. The limit system is an absolute winner. Like, it is cool, but it's basically like another card game, but with a mod. And I think worst of all, I didn't feel passionate about it, Like, if I'm not over here loving it, that's the biggest alarm bell to me. If I'm not over here loving it, like, oh my god, you have to try this, that's a problem. I got a lot of people interested in the other one because it was like, check out my hook. You can win however you want to. What do you want to do? You want to punch people? You want to build? And they were like, I want to build. I want to punch. Cool beans. I can get different people that way. But this one's a lot like, hey kid, you like Yu-Gi-Oh? We'll try this, because it's not Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's like it, but it's like a cool thing. So my hook again was just like, it's a video game. I got damage numbers, that's fine, but now it's just another punchy game. And I lost the S, and the S was so cool to me. I love the S. To gain damage numbers, you have to lose that surprise. You can't have number equal card draw and have it not be jank. It just doesn't work. And the burst is cool, it's like a fighting game thing. It was neat, but it worked, and that's about as excited as I got about it. It worked. It was okay. People thought it was fine, and they thought, like, yeah, I'd play this. Like, people said they'd play it. They were asking questions. They were interested, but that spark was kind of gone, and there wasn't no fun, childish surprise. Like, the system leaned heavily into strategy. Like, you could do a lot of cool plays and stuff, which was really neat. Like, if you managed your resources properly, you could do some crazy combo stuff, which was really cool. Like, I'm not going to pretend that isn't cool, but as a veteran card game player, that my brain is already wired that way. I can see somebody who's new to it having a lot of problems or having a lot of trouble with it, and then getting destroyed by like a vet, which is like, sometimes it be that way. Like, that's how card games, or that's how any game of skill is sometimes, but like, card games in particular are a bit more volatile, and I like that, because allowing vets to lose to beginners sometimes is fine. I think that's okay. What that says for my RPG progression mechanic, though, is a little... I think we balanced that out with, like, you have higher health totals than your enemies and stuff like that. Like, no enemy in Pokemon until like the Elite Four and some later gym leaders has 6 Pokemon that are equal level to your Pokemon. Like, if they have 6, they have 6 Magikarps. It's like, I think card game fans would like it, but I don't think casual fans would get as much out of it as I would. And so now, after this little deliberation, we're after where I was 5 months ago. So here's what I've been doing since then. And we're only, you know, however long in this is. So while we gain damage numbers, I was really missing surprise. Surprise was my key thing. And the idea of, yes, what do I draw this turn? What is the opponent gonna, is the opponent gonna commit? When are they gonna burst? There were still some fun questions, some fun comeback thingies. It was there. They worked. It was fine. But it's just like, I don't know. Not having something, like, there wasn't a big pop-off moment. And that's when I started realizing something else. Like, this system needed a pop-off. It needed a big moment of just like, I can't believe that happened. Like, you know, what's the best card in Hearthstone? There's one answer. It's that. That's the best card. It leads to some of the craziest moments, some of the craziest clips that get shared around. You know, this crazy Yogg thing happens. It's fun. It's fun to see that stuff. And people pretend that they don't like randomness, but that's a lie. They wouldn't be playing card games if they didn't like randomness. They just don't like certain kinds. And I think certain kinds can be more egregious. But if you're playing a card game, that's because you like gambling. And gambling is inherently about luck and trying to hedge your bets and odds and stuff like that. People like randomness, and I want a bit more of it. Because that makes me excited, and that allows for newcomers to have a chance to come back. So I started just looking for, where can I get more randomness? Where can I get some pop-off stuff? So I started working on this crazy thing. Had another design stream where we tried to figure out exactly what we could do. Like, how can we get everything I'm looking for in this game? And I was looking for, like, you know, it needs to be fast. It's got to be easy. Very limited resource management. Like, we have 20 card decks, by the way. They're very tiny decks. Got to know it at a glance, got all these things, and it's just like, what can we do? What works here? And I'm like, literally less than 3 minutes when I'm talking fast. Like, it's got to be fast. That means you need really fast turns, because I don't want these 3 minutes to be 2 turns long, and both of you just took turns that took a minute and a half. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, like, I take a turn, and that turn took like 20 seconds, max. Then your turn happens, and that turn takes 20 seconds, max. And then we go. Like, that's what I'm looking for. So that needs, like, this all feeds into the same kind of thing. I want to get these pop-off moments that happen that can, like, fit in with this framework, that aren't going to be too, like, that still enable this kind of thing, that don't take too much calculation and stuff like that. And, like, just naturally you need to do it. So I was looking at what I have. Victory, you know, has a lot of pop-offs. I get a victory, you got a card. Does it have the S? No. All right, I get a victory, you get a card. Does it have the S? Yes, fuck you. Like, that was fun. That was great. And it's easier to calculate. You gain VP on, like, to level up and stuff. It was like there was some small, this was other thing. It was a small arc kind of thing. There's so many mods I did of these systems. And then I was like, okay, life points too. Like, we're at the life point stage. We have granularity, which is great. Now cards can do, like, kind of a different amount of damage. You could have a card with, like, 100 attack and 10 defense that deals 3,000 damage. You could have a card with, like, poop stats that deals, like, you know, 6,000 damage. You can do a bunch of different things with it. You get damage numbers. That's real big because it gives you feedback. It's great. But there's no pops. There's no, like, little arcs to it. It's just, like, very clearly, I deal damage, done. And no numbies in victory, so that sucked. And it was also hard to heal. Like, very hard to heal in this kind of thing. And I think healing's okay. So I tried to, like, blend them together. I was like, okay, maybe we can have a leader dude that has HP, like, around 6,000. And when their HP hits 0, the attacker gets a victory, the defender gets to draw a card, and if it has the S, you get to play it. And then when the attacker or defender has, you know, certain amount of victory, I wasn't certain either or, your leader gets to level up. And then, so that incentivizes you to do it. And then the number of KOs, like, so the amount of times the amount of KOs that you had, like, lives. So you have, like, you'd have 2 lives at 6,000, or maybe 2 lives at, you know, 8,000, or 3 at 6,000, I think was the one that I was playing with. So scrubs could get knocked out at 1 or 2. Harder dudes would be like 3 to 5, and gym leaders, you have to knock them out 6 times or something. So it's scalable, it's kind of cool, and then it still has itself to, like, fun little thingies, comeback mechanic, S card, all that stuff's in there. So, you know, that worked, and then every time you get a victory, KOing the leader gets you 1. If you have to refresh the deck, your opponent would gain a victory. So every time you run out of cards, your opponent would get a victory for that. The game wouldn't end. And then you could also, I didn't write down here, but you could also spend 6 of the resource thingy, which now you got very slowly. You could spend all of your resources to turn it into a victory. You didn't have dudes that you had some dudes that kind of got you some of that stuff, but it was now kind of a very hard thing to, you had to really want that and not play any other cards. It was you had to specifically built for that, and even then it would still be interactive in a way. And I made it it costed a lot, so it's it kind of paid off and made sense. So I tried this. Let's change it so that the leader had these values and things like that, and maybe every time the leader gets knocked out, the turn ends, we can give them have more defensive power and stuff. But it's the more that happened, it just didn't really make a lot of sense. The lead, because now here's what happens with this one, right? So leader has health, okay, say 6. And then you have your resource stuff, which was, I guess, here. Or maybe this is your health and this is your resource. Then you have your victory that you get. And then what's the resource system? The buddy fight thing again, where it goes up by 1. And here's the problem with that. Look how many things you got to keep track of. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope. Done. Can't do it. Can't do it. Along with every other thing that's going on, no, didn't work. It would be way too complicated to get we're basically shoving it in there, to really get it to work. And it's just not worth it. It wasn't worth it. So I didn't really call this one, but this was design 4.5, basically buddy fight, but kind of Pokemon now. Basically had a prize card. It didn't work. It was too complicated, and it worked in theory in my head. I was okay, yeah. Maybe we could do something with this. Maybe this is how we can get it to work. But then just the more I started actually playing with it, and I went to go set up the table, and I did it once. Nope. Sucks. So that one also got the X. So after that brief stint, I tried that out and was okay, well, that doesn't really work, but I still want surprise somewhere. It'd be cool if I could have something fun. How could we do that? So maybe we could go back to cards having health. Maybe we could go back to, or cards being health. Maybe we could go back to just a tiny health number. Maybe something like the leader has 6 health, okay? And then once the leader has 6 health and every card attacks, it deals 1 damage, all right? So this actually kind of came about pretty well. This worked. So in this one, you have a leader who has got he's got an attack number, and he has how many hits he can take. He has his own little health thing, so they could take, let's say, 6 damage, right? And then it works. You can use a die to track this. I think most of them would be around 6 or something. Would be the higher one. And so then, okay, so let's see, we got our cards, and we have our cards that only have 2 numbers now, so it's even easier to look at and see exactly what they do. I got 50 attack and 10 HP. Okay, rad. And then whenever I attack, if there's no one blocking here, don't worry about this stuff. Don't worry about this. I attack you, and then it doesn't get blocked. You take 1 damage. And then whenever you take a damage, you get to draw a card. And then hang on, let's shake it up. You get to draw a card, and if it has the come on, where is it? If it has the S, you get to play it for free. So that was how this works. And this is again just another fighty game. The limit system is here now too, and the limit system combined with this. Same thing with, I haven't been married to an attack position, defense position kind of thing. I kind of like the idea of attacking with dudes like this. It feels good. But I know people are into attack defense position, but that's got a little thing to work out too. I'll talk about that later. This is here. Cards have 2 numbers. I've been ever since I started doing 2 numbers, I've been a huge fan of 2 numbers or even 1 number. I love having just fewer numbers. I think the better to get casuals on board, because you have to treat all of these cards like moves in Pokemon. Not only your Pokemon has 4 moves, but your Pokemon has a bunch of stats. But you're not thinking about all the Pokemon stats when you're a newcomer. You're looking at their moves. And a hand of cards are basically all of your moves that you have. So the more complicated all your moves get, the more things you have to go through. And if you have to hold a hand of cards where all of them have, like, for example, looking at something like this, just looking at the one that was like Buddy Fight, our Design 4, or 3, or whatever the hell I called it. That last one that had the 3 numbers and the limit system and everything that was cool. You're looking at your hand of cards and you're a newcomer, and you see, like, 3 numbers on these cards, and then this... Like, this is a lot to look at. Like, it might, like, card game players might be fine with this, but, like, that's a lot to parse through. You're sitting there holding your hand and you got to look at all these things. Like, that's a lot to look at and know. It does give me more granularity as the designer, but I think as a newcomer, vets would get over it pretty quickly. They would adjust to it and they would get it, and I think they'd be fine. As a newcomer, I do worry about having 3 numbers like this. I still haven't decided if I want 3 numbers or 2 for some of these things. I'm kind of married to 2 numbers mostly, but what do you think? Do you think that having 3 numbers like this isn't the end of the world? Do you think having 3 numbers like this, you know, is fine? You know, it's okay to have the 3 numbers there? Or do you think that the 2 numbers just looks nicer? Because personally, I think 2 numbers is always going to be easier. And so the way I would have this out too is, like, if I wanted a card that, let's say, did more damage, I could just have an effect that said when this card attacks, it deals, you know, 2 damage. So that would be our way to basically get our 3rd number. We could just make it an effect. When you're looking at this stuff too, I think this is way easier to look at. Okay, I got a 50-10, I got an 80-40, and here, this card right here, break +1, this card breaks 1 more spirit. And then, you know, there's other things we can do as well of, like, you know, maybe if the S shows up, you don't take any damage. There's just a bunch of things that we can do that bakes in a comeback mechanic here. And I'm going to hold on to the limit system and a few other things because, like, I tried this one out, and this was a clear winner. This felt great. This one is, like, going down the criteria really quick. All right, is this easy? Yes, this is way easier. The way everything works, you only got 2 numbers, and you have a leader, you have tiny damage, and every time you take a damage, you get to draw a card. That makes sense. There's one resource system. This isn't here. There's one resource system over here. You have this is a manageable field, and there's not a lot to keep track of. It's just, here's your resources. Here you have your health that you can track on a simple die. I don't think any of them are going to go higher than, like, 20. Even, like, the crazy boss fight, like fighting our crazy, you know, god at the end. He's not going to have more than 20 health. So that can still work on a D20 if you want to do that. So you got tiny health number. We can scale this down to Joey Rattata. And I already jumped into the fast one. So, you know, fast. We can do it fast. You know, if you want to have a fast battle with somebody, you could give them a tiny health number. We could have a bigger health number. Leveling up would work great. You know, if you're leveling up with your cards, you could have them gain, because we're at 50 and 10, and there's no math involved, it's just comparing numbers and stuff. You can have them gain 5 in a stat, and it wouldn't break the bank. Like, you could have a card say, oh, my Adventure Bird Plus has 55 attack and 15 HP. That might not sound like a lot, but that can matter. Like, in this, that would, like, maybe make a difference, which is why I'm not doing single digit, because leveling up a single digit at 1 is double the power. That's a lot. But, you know, going from 50 to 55, I can give cards, like, you know, 5 levels, and that would be fun. You could level up your cards and stuff. Wouldn't that be fun? Like, this does everything I need, and this is the one I'm kind of keeping in the back pocket. Also, is it fun? It's so fun. Like, the limit system combined with the S cards coming out, this is such a winner. And it's just like, the S cards are naturally more expensive, so there are risks to kind of have in your deck. Like, you can only have up to 6 of them, so it kind of balances it out. But they still are slightly more expensive, like, just because. Like, you're getting to play them for free, that's a big swing. So that being there's also a few other things I could maybe do with the S and the leaders and a few other stuff, and having a burst and flipping over at a certain HP value. Just all of this works. These games played quickly. It's very fast, easy on the brain. I loved all the playtests I had with this version. It was so fun, and it's just like, everything works. I did my aggro control matchup stuff. I can see the mid-range stuff working pretty well with this, and the limit system is just such a winner, and it works so well with the S card that this is like, if any of them's gonna be it, and I don't figure it out here, this one here, I call Yu-Gi-Oh! Meets Duel Masters. This one is obviously the winner. And I don't want to reveal everything about it because I'm still holding on to it because if this one is the winner, I don't want to give away all its secrets just yet. So that last design kind of did exactly what I needed it to, and that was cool. I still struggled with one thing, and I know this is like constantly the theme. Going back to like what I said at the beginning, a creative has I think a tough time knowing when you're making something new because you don't know if it's done. You don't know when is it done? What needs to be, do I need to add more? Do I need to fix anything? When do you know it's done, right? That's something I've been kind of struggling with a lot lately. So I started kind of analyzing a lot of it, and I think it works. It does everything I need it to. It is fast, it is easy, it is fun. It is a clear winner for what I need for this card game system. But I started thinking about it more, and I was just like, what is its hook, though? Like, does it have a hook? Yeah, it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh! Meets Duel Masters, and those are two fucking flavors that taste great together. Like, those two games are made for each other. They're also the most popular games in Japan, and like, putting them together, it just works, man. A lot of things that try to do Duel Masters stuff, they end up adding a few too many things, in my opinion, or they kind of go a little too nutty with it, or they don't have anything interesting. I have the limit system is interesting. Like, we have they just do mana, and I hate mana. Mana's so boring. So adding in the limit system, which works with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Resource system, it's so cool. Like, it works great, and it has so many awesome elements to it. And honestly, doing this and recording this has me even more excited for it. And I'm just like, why'd I spend so much time doing all this other stuff? But, I do want to talk about the other things that I've done just because I've done them, and I guess I can talk about it some more. So that design did exactly what I needed it to, but I still was like, winning how you wanted was such a good hook. Wasn't it? Like, I just see that being like the tagline in the trailer, the card game where you win how you want to. Fulfill your dreams and win the card game. Like, do whatever you want. Like, you can, if I want to do this, like, this certain angle, like, I'm a painter. My deck is all about painting pictures, and I have my painter cards, and then, or like I have materials, and then I fuse these paint colors together, and just by doing this, I get victory. Like, just by playing these cards in combination, I get victory. Like, my brain just goes crazy thinking about the possibilities you have with something like that. I can think about almost any concept under this framework. So I started thinking, is there a way that I could basically do design number 1, but I've now made all these other systems. Can I go back and fix it? Can I go back to design number 1 and make it work? So that leads us to design number 6, which I'm going to call the War on Two Fronts, because my idea for how to fix the first design was really like 1.5. They both had the same problem of, if you had, these are the ones that had the energy and stuff where you could win by spending 3 to get a victory, or you could attack directly to get a victory. And also you had a dream card that said, hey, whenever you do this, you get a thing. So my thought was maybe I could do exactly that, but make the resource interactive. My thought was looking at, and this is where that one thing that you saw comes in. Let me pull this up. My idea was, instead of making it a resource that you hoard with your leader, what if we make the resource something shared between the players? So the idea was, I was looking at, the Digimon card game, which is doing the Chrono Clash thing, really, and I combined that with the old design, also with my single number love, right, of the cards having one number. So this guy has 1,000, but when he attacks, he gains 2,000. So basically, he's a 3,000, 1,000. This guy's 2,000, so he's basically a 2,000, 2,000. And then, you take, these guys didn't really have any dudes that would do this, but you have your aggro dudes, or your control dudes over here, who don't have a lot of power, but they have a lot of the will stat. And this one over here is the same thing. You can make or you can break. So I could attack you with my dude, and you just compare numbers. Very, very straightforward. 0 against 2,000. Well, 2,000 wins, I'd die. So, F that. What we're going to do is we're going to use him to get a meter. And then what you do is, now this made more sense too, with the way I had like this meter stuff set up with the cards. So you'd pull it towards you. And this is where the idea of like this tug of war up here where you have to manage this little thing as well. And this would be like, this is also a way you can get victory, and also a way that you could kind of overspend. You could spend more than you have at a scary cost. So I could pull this thing over my way, and then every leader also had the same thing. So every leader had like 2-ish. So, you know, and then I could do this, right? And then I'm pretty close, right? So you see that thing here. So here's what happens. Let's say he doesn't care. Let's say he does this. He doesn't care at all. So he's like, whatever. All right, I got this field. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to attack with him. Bam. Kill you. He has 2,000 power. He's got 0. He dies. Check out his effect. Whenever he's knocked out, you gain 1 meter, or, you know, the player who controls him. So he gets knocked out, which means, bam, this gets knocked over. And anytime, no matter what the number is, this is a little bounce problem, but no matter what the number is, anytime this gets knocked over, the player over here got a victory. So when they get a victory, and then it resets back to here. And then now they got a victory, so I get to draw a card, right? Because they get a victory, I get to draw a card and see if it has the S. And now you can kind of see where like you could kind of overspend to give the opponent stuff for a hopes of maybe getting like an S card on your turn, which was really fun. And this lent itself to a lot of crazy combos. There it is. Now I finally got it. So then like say I got this, and then I could go, oh hey, wham, now I'm attacking with him too. Now I get 1, and then he gets a thingy, and you know, it goes like that, right? So now it's like, that was really cool. It was a lot of fun. I think some of the most fun I had with the game, aside from like the last one, was with this system where everybody had like a will stat kind of thing. Everybody had an attack stuff. And it really did a lot of what I wanted it to. But it still kind of had the same kind of problem where it was like, ultimately, this came up again where it was like, yes, this is now more interactive. The opponent, if I see the opponent is going to, you know, is going to win, like say they've got all these and they just need 1 more to win, and it's like right here. This kind of had a poopy problem though, where it was like, you still needed dudes that got you resources and stuff. So I started thinking like, okay, does everybody have, like maybe just has 1 by default, and then some of them have more, maybe? I started playing with a lot of different variants, like maybe every time your leader does it, it just pools all of them together. So all your cards do is attack, but your leader is the one who kind of like does this, and they pull like the meter thingy back and forth. I could come up with a fun little lore thing for that. And that kind of solved that problem, because I was looking at like, why would I ever, right, let me pull up this one card. So I designed these just to see how they would work. Why would I ever, with a guy that has 6,001 will, why would I ever do this outside of getting it to win? Like, if this is over here, why would I do this? I get nothing from doing that. Like, maybe, you know, maybe it pushes it over here, so maybe I get to win more, but that's still not good enough. That is like, the dominant strategy does come up again. There's no reason to do this. So there was an idea, right, that like, okay, well maybe just all the dudes on the field have this number, and then whenever the leader does it, it just kind of adds all of them up. Like he's like, the leader's like gaining power based on the dudes you have and stuff. And I could come up with a fun little lore for it, and wham, like, they're just, my friends are so cool that I'm strong now. That's fun. Ways we can work that in. And, you know, it had a lot of really cool combo potential. Combine this with like, with the limit system that I had as well, there was like a lot of really fun stuff with this. You could basically play your hand every time and just do some crazy stuff, and it lent itself to some goofy plays and stuff like that, you know. And it worked, but I started seeing the problems again with stuff like this. Every time I was playing, I was able to play every card in my hand if I just figured out the proper sequence of events. And I love that it enabled that. New players are not going to figure that out. They're going to get totally destroyed. Maybe that's fine, you know, and against like, you know, baby AI stuff, I want you to start figuring out how these combos work and things like that. But same thing where it's like, when you can play every card in your hand, you start doing this. You start looking at everything, and it's like, oh, what can I do? What am I going to do? I did this and that. And it's just like, no, not what I want. So ultimately, while it had some really cool things, I had a lot of fun with this. It did a lot of really great stuff. it wasn't as fast as I wanted it to be, and it was just like, you know, the hook was there. It's very unique. It's very weird. This is a very weird game, and I think that is like kind of in its benefit, but it's also like this board also looks a little busy. Like I think as soon as you see this, a lot of people are like, "Uh-oh, that looks scary. I'm tapping out, man. This is me now as soon as I see that thing going on." So, having been utterly destroyed by my desire to make a game where you can win how you want to, I kind of bummed out for a while. You know, I had the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Masters one. It works. That's still in my pocket. I got that. I got that here. It'll work. It'll be fine. It'll be good. I'll be fine if that's what I end up going with. Okay? But I just had this nagging feeling that I started this whole thing with this like really big desire to talk about how card games like really emphasize how people can do things differently, and like how interesting it was to see what somebody from a different background did when they were given a deck of cards. What they would do, what deck they would build, how would that reflect them? What deck would you make? What cards could I make that could reflect a character that would be like, you know, symbolic of them? Maybe they have some tragic backstory and that plays into the deck they made. I can still do that. I can still have that work. That can still be there. Like plenty of characterization and customization with what I have with the other one. That works really well. I might not be able to do the win the way you want to thing. I can maybe work it in if I do this certain kind of thingy, but like, it just wasn't really, I don't know, it just wasn't really getting there. And it was so hard to just make it hit all of my design goals and work and do that. Like, it just feels like no matter what cosmic stuff is happening, I just can't physically make win how you want to fit in with fast, easy fun. It just feels like it's impossible. Like, by making the options big enough, you lose ease and you gain time. Like, just with any system that has so many options, that's just like the natural conclusion. That's just what's going to happen. But I still wanted to try something else. And I was like, okay, it's quarantine. I've got all the time in the world to try something. So let's try something. So I started looking around for inspiration from places, and I landed on a very unexpected source. The Bleach card game. So design number whatever is the Bleach one. Don't laugh. The Bleach one takes inspiration from how the Bleach card game works, where every card has... Hang on, let me see if I can pull up a picture of one. So every card in Bleach has 3 stats around. Like, some of them only have 1, some have 2, most of them have 3. And there's 6 like stats that they can have. And a leader has like somewhere around like 30 health, and they have all different health stuff and different resource thingies and different abilities, all this cool stuff. And then what happens is that you see like, okay, I have over here fortitude, intelligence, and strength. And Ichigo over here has intelligence, the Reiatsu one, and strength, okay? So if I was going to attack with Bleachigo over here, I'm attacking with 5 in strength. You pick a stat and then you attack with it. So then now the opponent can decide to block with a card that has that same stat. So I could go, okay, I'm going to block with Ishin. He only has a strength of 1, but I'm still blocking you. So I go, okay. Then now you get to take, now the attacker gets to take a card from their hand. You notice on the top here, they have a boost icon. And almost every card gives like a decent number of boosty. So every card you can add to boost yourself. So this Ichigo, if I used another copy of him to boost right here, you see how he gives a boost of 2 in, you know, the spirit points, okay? And then Ishin gives a boost of 2 in quick. So if I had anybody that boosted strength, I could do that. And then if he had anybody who boosted strength, he could do that too. This is like a really cool system. You go back and forth. I'm boosting, you're boosting. Oh, I'm playing an event and I'm just going to cancel this whole battle. And I've already like pitched all these cards. It has a bunch of investment stuff. It's like, that's really cool. Your surprise kind of comes from with the gambly thing of how much are you going in? Like kind of like what we had earlier. Like how much do you want to commit, my dude? I love that about the Dragon Ball card game too. So when we get to this system though, I already see a problem. I don't even need to play the game to know what's happening here. I've read all the rule book and I watched it, like watched the very tiny amount of stuff about this game that's out there. But I already see what's going to happen. What's going to happen is there's summoning sickness in this game, and which is good, I think, for what they're doing. But there are 6 stats, and you can only have 3. So what happens when my deck focuses on quickness, and you have a deck with none quickness? What are we doing? If you remember when I was talking about the 2 paths to victory with the old system, you see the same thing happening. If my road is all quickness, and you have nothing to deal with quickness, maybe you have some events that cancel it, maybe you have some other things that you can stop it with, but you don't have any quickness, and let's say you're all intelligence, and I don't have any intelligence. What are we doing? So I attack you, you can't block me, I deal all my damage to your leader. Oh yeah, and then if Ichigo attacked Ishin here, we didn't boost it, 5 against 1, he would kill Ishin and then deal 4 damage to the leader. So everything has, like in Yu-Gi-Oh, everybody has trample, which is great inertia. That's a really good idea. So, keeps the game moving. It's really cool, it's a great idea. But I already see, like, the problem of having 3 stats from a pool of 6. I don't like it. Because I can already see basically it is now, again, the same problem where your deck determines how much you can interact with a certain opponent. Obviously, I think some card pools, like I was looking at a bunch of cards, and a lot of them have like simple ones. Like a lot of people have strength, a lot of people have fortitude, a lot of people have intelligence and stuff like that. Like this is a very common spread. And then very rarely are they going to have like the spirit ones or quickness or the other weird one. It's some other trait is the weird one. Agility, I think? It's something wacky. So then you look at, I look at this and then I see the creepy gremlins of uninteractivity coming back. So I was like, okay, I love this idea. This is so fun. This is so out there. This could be a great hook too. The idea that every card has 2 stats to it. And this has still been like stuff that I really want to focus on. Like cards have 2 stats. This could be kind of fun. You know, I have my aggro dudes are just all about like their body stat. Their little body martial stat is very big. But their little, our spirit stat is very weak. But that's okay. So whenever we attack with dudes, 30 damage straight to you. You don't have anybody blocking it, right? So then we have 2 stats. You got an attack one and you got a spirit one. Like a body and a spirit. I think is what I'm going with. So now here you can already see where like some of this kind of starts to pay off. So in the other ones, it was highly beneficial to min-max. You could still min-max in this one, but now people that have mid-range spreads are arguably better than some of the dudes with the min-max stuff. Because the way like combat I still don't know if I'm going to do attack or defense stuff, or like if they're going to attack, like they do the bleach thing where it's like, I attack you with my 30. Like, I still like the buddy fight thing where the center dude blocks for you. I don't know if all of them need to be mandatory and stuff, or like, I don't know. Bunch of what ifs right now. So, I attack and I got my 30 attack going against you. And then he's got only 20 attack, and he's got 20 of the little spirit points. So it'd be like, okay, well, I have 20 in that stat, so we got to compare that stat. And then we could either, if we want to make it more brainy, you could pitch from your hand to add to it. Or if we want to get more risky, you could like have it come from the top of the deck. And then, oh shit, and then the S card represents like your leader is going to define what the S card does. So your leader will say, oh, hey, anytime the S card shows up, do this and get another one. So now it's like, that already feels like, that is the explosive type of exploding dice is what that's based on. This is the type of randomness that I really like, that I think is super fun, and casuals eat this up. I eat it up. Like, the casual part of me loves this. This is so fun. So like for this whole thing, it'd be like, gain 30 and then do another one. So he like cost 30 and also get you another. So I'd be like, okay, 30 plus another 30, 60, then another one, 20, wham, I'm attacking you for 80 now. Like that's crazy. Okay, well I get my thingy, I got 20, so I'm only at 40. And then now we could be like, okay, do you want to add any more from your hand? And he could be like, yeah, I think I'm gonna activate my little trappy thingy too, like do that. Or he'd be like, okay, I got this card in my hand, I'm going to activate my little S card here. I'm going to give him plus 30 and then do another one. Wham, now above you. And I'd be like, oh, shoot. Okay, do I pitch it? Do I win? Fuck you, I'm pitching it. Another 30. Bam. Fuck you, you're so dead. Boom. And like, that interaction feels amazing. It's so fun, and it's just, it works so well. And like the idea that like you have two different stats here, so like now like another starting line would be, okay, our little scout dude has 20 spirit versus his 10. Now we can attack him back if we survived and go, okay, I got 20 going on your 10 there, Bubsy. And then, you know, I get to try it again. Problems, immediate problems. If every fight requires this, that's a lot of extra time. If you have to choose to pitch it, that's every time a prompt comes up. Every time you attack a guy, and it goes, do you want a combo? I hate that stuff so much in games. Do you want to activate this? You have a counter in your hand. You have a hand trap in Yu-Gi-Oh! In a video game, and every single moment, it's like, do you want to activate it? 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 Shut up! I will tell you when I want to activate it. So, when it comes to these kinds of battles, if this is happening like 3 times a turn, and you have to do this every time, that sucks. That's stupid. That blows. So I've been thinking about like maybe having a, you know, maybe it only happens on certain cards. Maybe it's only the center card. And I've been thinking about like, I have a fun idea for how this can kind of have a, can I get a, dude, there we go. For a fun idea for how this can kind of have a good lore implication and stuff. And it's just like, you know, it works well enough, and I think I have an idea for it. But the other problem is I know a lot of people like playing their cards. They don't like when this happens. They get really sad. So a certain percentage of people are like, oh man, I wanted to play that card. I didn't want to get it for that. I get it. I just don't think they've played enough card games that aren't Magic to like get that training wheel removed to where it's like, look at the fun things you can do with card games. Like, let it go. It's fine. It's okay. You probably weren't going to draw it anyway. Like, people see these cards and they instantly think, man, I could have played that. When it's like, do you think that about the 30 other cards in your Magic deck that you didn't draw? Like, it's just the way people think about this stuff that, like, doesn't make any logical sense, but they see it as like a, man, I could have played that. And it's just like, why you don't think about it that way. You weren't getting this card anyway. Like, if that's how you need to think about it, right? I'll pull it from the bottom of the deck if you want to be a little baby about it. So then it's like, so then that's the thing, okay? There's that, which people don't like, and then there's some of these power levels can balloon, but I was doing the thing where, like, it's the trample damage where, you know, if I had 100 and you had 30, you would take 70. So, you know, that can kind of get a little explosive, which is fine, you know, that's okay, that works. Limit systems here, limit system, clear winner. It's been in almost every version I've had since I made it, and it works, it's great every time. And then making the S kind of like, this little reveal is so fun. Oh, fuck you. Wham, got another one. Bam. Double fuck you. And it's just like, it's really cool. And the way that the decks are built, they're very tiny decks. You can have 3 copies of a card in your deck. So even if one of them's getting revealed for this kind of thing, you still have, like, it's a tiny deck that you might be ripping through, and then you get to reshuffle it and get your cards back. So, you know, no harm, no foul with that kind of stuff. So this is like, I kind of like this one. Like, this is such a fun interaction. It's super casual friendly. This whole thing, like, you have little equip cards, you know, and make this guy permanently get like plus 30 body, but it still leaves him wide open to, like, you know, get blown up by like a spirit attack, right? It's like, even if he's got like, you know, 40, let's say right here, he has 100. He's got 100 like body power stuff. But, you know, this guy has 20 spirit. You've got 40 spirit. So I'll attack you with this. And now we got to play on this other vector. So it's like, it's kind of cool. And then, you know, if I have other cards that are like all spirit and none body, like, I haven't made those cards yet to try to see how if they work well enough. But this is the other one. This is the bleach one. Don't laugh. And looking at all the bullet points that it hits, ease. So, like, I'm still working on it, so I'm kind of still working on it. But like, ease, as far as ease of use, it is brain dead at certain parts, which is a big thumbs up. And it is super, like, it does the thing where, like, if you want people to have fun, like a shortcut to have fun is to add rock, paper, scissors in your game. And this kind of adds rock, paper, scissors if you can do it from your hand. Because then it's like, how much are you going to commit? I'm throwing this down. And it's an S, F you. And then he gets to throw a thing down. He's like, yeah, well, I wasn't going to commit much anyway. Or in fact, I'm not going to play any card. I wasn't going to even boost this guy, but you threw the S down. So you know what? You take it and run, man. I wasn't even going to boost him. That's fine. You can kill him. So another problem, though, is like the losing cards thing some people don't like, but Like that's just a stigma that these kinds of games have that people need to kind of grow out of. I don't think Western audiences get it. Japanese audiences, they eat this stuff up, and man, I wish I was playing card games in Japan. And then when it comes to, you know, how fast is it? Games are really fast, maybe too fast with how strong you get sometimes. I've had dudes hit 200, which, you know, is the number. That's how much health you have for some of these like battles and stuff. So might need to tweak some of these numbers, maybe dial everybody back a bit and change how much like the little, I guess I kind of glazed over the fact that everybody has a little number up here that, you know, you can add and stuff. That's like kind of where the third stat went. But I love stuff like this. It's so fun. And it's like, it really lends itself to like feeling like some big anime comeback. Anime comeback moments live on stuff like this. Like this is where your Yu-Gi-Oh moments live. Heart of the Cards is this right here. Like, yes, Heart of the Cards is this. You know, I hope I get the card I need. I didn't. No Heart of the Cards. But Omega Heart of the Cards is like, okay, I'm fighting you. We're in a battle. Bam! 20. Oh, shoot. Okay, well, that's okay. That's okay. Because I've got this card in my hand. Get me 30. Deal me in. I'm putting in all my chips. Getting another one. Well, bam. And if that card, right? And then you could do this stuff. If this card was an S, then he could be like, well, bam! Another one! And then get that one. It's like crazy, right? You can get some crazy stuff with this, and it looks awesome. It feels great. It's so fun. This is the most casual friendly this has gotten so far. And yeah, a lot of potential here, but it's like, it's something. I've kind of been playing around with the idea of maybe they don't have two stats. Like the other design I think I'm really working on is maybe they don't have two stats. Maybe this is just attack and defense, and we do the same kind of thing. I'm still like workshopping it, but I have an idea for like maybe the center thing is like where you put your favorite card, and your favorite card is the one that gets to do this. Like your protagonist slot or like your main character slot goes in here or something. I got some ideas percolating for how this can work. But that's like Buddy Fight, Yu-Gi-Oh, Bleach, kind of blending it all together. It's got a lot of cool things. It's got a lot of cool stuff, but it's like, you know, I feel like I might just be glossing over the one that really works. So that is however long this has been. The design process is insane. The Hearthstone designers, to come up with Hearthstone, right? The baby's magic, that took them a year. That took two people 1 year to make. They went through so many prototypes and so many things. You can watch the GDC talk on it. It's actually really interesting. They went through so many prototypes and all these different things to try and get to where they needed to, because getting these kinds of games down to their simplistic elements and making it good is very, very hard. If it was easy, it'd be done, but it's not easy. You know what is easy? Adding a bunch of stuff, stapling a bunch of shit to it, and going, okay, it's magic, but this and that and that and that. Hey, look at my unique OC. Taking everything away and going from the ground up, real hard. And I don't think I've done that exactly, but I have my own unique design mechanic that I made. It's great, and I love it, and the limit system is the chef's kiss out of this whole thing. It's fantastic. I think it's great. It's super simple, too, and I will make a whole thingy about it. I feel like I've been talking it up like it's the next Messiah here, but it's cool. It's a cool card game resource system, and I think fans of Yu-Gi-Oh! Will like. I feel like this whole process was a lot of ways of figuring out how not to make this game. I think a lot of this was figuring out, you have to design a system, and for a card game, you need to come up with all these rules. Then you have to make the cards. Then you've got to play it with yourself because you're crazy and you're making your own card game by yourself. Because then if you're going to play with people, you have to teach them the rules. And then, just kidding, in the middle of playing, I got to change this rule really quick. Hang on, let me change this rule really quick. Oh, hang on, let me try that. Okay, now let's try this for a bit. Hang on, this sucks. Let's change that. And that's a lot of patience to ask of somebody. So, if you have your own design that you're trying to work on, it's not as strict as this. Because again, I'm trying to fit what is inherently a bit of a complicated medium into a very tiny hole that I know works. Because I have at least one. I have at least one that works. It's great. I have games that can be done in like 3 minutes. I have games that can be done in 1 minute with that system. It's fantastic and it's super fun. So I know it works. But there are, you know, Duel Links is a testament too. You can get Yu-Gi-Oh to last that long, but it's like you kind of lose some stuff in the exchange there that I think a lot of people feel. And Duel Links has its own set of problems. I'm going to talk about that now. I've been thinking a lot about how would this actually function with button prompts? This is going to be a video game. What are the buttons going to be? What do the effects look like? I'm thinking about all of that. Every time I'm making this, I'm thinking about what stories can I tell? What am I limited to? What resonates thematically with the rest of the game? Like, you know, they have top-down design where it's like, I have all this flowery story that I want to tell, and I'm going to make the game facilitate the story. Then they have bottom-up design where it's super abstract, the way I've been thinking about a lot of this stuff. I have 1 and I have 2. How do I make that interesting? Okay, well, maybe 1 can turn into 1.5, and then 2 can turn into 3, you know. So then you work up to a story. I'm kind of in the middle. I'm kind of going both ways with it. It's like, I have a story thing I want to tell, and I have made these, like, an inherent design to make a cool game. I want to make these numbers do some really cool stuff and give it some nice flavor. And we're getting there. I think I have some really cool flavor for this stuff. Thinking about how this would function with casuals and Pokemon players really helped iron out a lot of my thinking. I frankly should have done this a lot sooner, honestly. I really should have. I've definitely made some finished games along the way. I think some of those systems that I went over, I didn't show off all the rule sets purposely, not to waste all of your time and to maybe do something with them later. But they're just not what I need right now. And for people who like really liked it, I'm sorry. And for people who are wondering why this has taken so long, I hope you can see why this has taken so long now. It's been really crazy. So for right now, what I'm really focused on is my experience. That I've looped back around to where I was. I went on my little hero's journey through the crazy world, and now I'm back home with my new power that I've now understood. I've made some prototypes. They work. They're fine. They're just not exactly what I'm looking for. So now I'm here with the knowledge of all this stuff, with a few systems that are clear winners. One definitely is a clear winner. And the more I've talked about this, the more I feel like that one might be okay. I'm just seeing if I can make the hook somewhere. If I can maybe I can combine that with the play the card game how you want to version. I think that would make me really happy. But you know, it's somewhere. It's there. Maybe I just need to kind of dial it back a bit. Another lesson that Mark Rosewater went over was don't design something to prove that you can. And I feel like that was a trap that I got into. His GDC talk, 20 years, 20 lessons. I'll link all this shit in the description. I'll link all this stuff in the description. He goes over how you shouldn't design something just to do it. You shouldn't design something just to prove that you can. He talks about all these anecdotes about how he was really big on like all these weird mechanics he wanted to push in Magic, and it didn't work. Like, it just didn't work. But he wanted to try, and you know, it's good that he tried, but you shouldn't do it just to prove that you can. So for right now, I'm just focused on the experience. That vague nostalgic feeling where you got together to play cards with your friends on your desk before class started, or on the asphalt, or on the grass during recess, or on the tile during study hall. And it's gonna go places. I want you to cry by the time it's over. And I know how I'm gonna do it. And I know how I'm gonna do it. Or at least I've got some ideas. I see it in my head. But first I gotta make sure people have fun with the game. And you know, that's probably more than I could chew, but I'm honestly happy I did. It's hard to make videos. I've been really busy. This stuff takes a lot of time. Takes a lot of time, man. You have no idea how much time it takes. Unless you're in the game dev industry, then you do know it. And hey, if you're in the industry, hit me up. I'm gonna try and not be a stranger on YouTube, but you know how that goes. So we'll see. Streams are super easy. I hit that button and I go, and sometimes I talk about this stuff and I work on it on a stream. So if you are into that, if you liked this, you can find more of it. I've liked the idea of offloading this onto YouTube more, because I like interacting with chat and stuff in stream, and people give input, and I've had lovely input from so many wonderful people over on Twitch. I can't begin to say everybody's name, but you know who you are. You know I love you. Follow me on Twitch, yourMoonstone on there. Twitter, You can hit me up at yourMoonstone as well. Be nice to have you over there. Be nice to see you on a stream. Hopefully the next thing won't be this long. Hopefully it'll be sooner, because I have a bunch of little things I haven't gone over that I think would be really cool. I think just doing this to getting this out of my head really helped. So maybe you enjoyed the background noise. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, night, whatever it is where you're seeing this. And I'll talk to you later.